Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back. It is PGA Championship week, the second major of the golf, of PGA golf. And I got a very exciting guest coming up in the next minute. So let's get started. All right. Welcome back to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with a new episode. It was said this is PGA Championship week, and I had to bring in some heavy hitters this week. So I'm so super glad to have this next guest. I will bring him on in a minute, but before we get started, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it is Apple, Spotify, we're on YouTube. We're on Spreaker. We're also on the BS3 network, BS3 TV live.com, BS3 network, Roku channel as well. You can get all the content there. The BS3 network is where you can get all the content, and you can follow me on all the social media platforms. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those. I'm on Blue Sky as well. So looking forward to that. So you could just get all the content from there. All right. Well, let me bring in my guest. Like I said, had to bring a heavy hitter for the PGA Championship, second major of the year. I have Joe Nicely. Great guy. He's if you follow him on Twitter, he so much good content out there as well. He's the operation manager and lead PGA editor for Rotoballer, also co-host of the Turn Golf podcast as well. So, Joe, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Courtney. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's great to be with you and great to talk golf. We got an exciting PGA Championship coming up this week. So
yes, we do.
looking forward to digging in.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. And like you said, you always always have some good content. And I think we follow each other probably since last year. Sometimes with a good buddy of ours, Spencer Aguiar, who's big into the golf space as well. Award-winning Spencer Aguiar, I should say. And like I said, we're good friends with him. So again, I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be with you. Love Spencer. You can always count on him putting out some amazing content, especially the week of the major. As you mentioned, just won the FSWA Golf Writer of the Year again for the second time. So
yes,
congrats to Spencer, and we're super proud to have him on the Rotoballer team.
Yeah, for sure. You guys got a really good team, and some of the best content when it comes to not just golf, but golf content, DFS, but all the major sports. Rotoballer is a big player in that fantasy football, all types of different sports. So again, I really appreciate the time. So all right, so my first question is always, who is Joe Nicely? Is my first question, and talk a little bit about your background.
Oh yeah, man. I'm not a big self promoter,
Okay.
so I don't know how much you'll get out of me, but
Okay.
just a husband, a dad. Try to be a hard worker and love sports. Kind of work my way into this fantasy DFS gambling industry, kind of slowly but surely, and spent the last several years over at Rotoballer. I think it's 7 years now. I've been there full time for almost 3 years. So born and raised here in East Tennessee, and just loving life, man.
Yeah, hey, that's all. Yeah, like you said, as a husband, father, that's like the main thing. It's the most important, I should say, when it comes to our lives, and just, you said, living life with that. So, so talk a little bit background on how you got into this to the golf space and your love of golf, TFS, and any of your sports background.
Yeah, always loved sports, always loved fantasy. So when DFS kind of became a thing back in the day, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like perfect. It's like amazing. This is the greatest thing ever. So became a big fan of DFS right away. really started getting into golf around 2017, 2018, golf DFS. I was doing a ton of research for the Masters at that time, and had some success in the previous year's Masters Millie Maker tournament. So I was doing just a ton of prep work for that. I'd started doing some player news actually with Rotoballer Spencer, who you mentioned. Spencer and I actually got hired at the same time to do PGA player news at Rotoballer. They were just kind of getting PGA up and running over there. It's a pretty new thing. So, I was just doing a little bit of player news. Spencer and I were brought in together on the kind of same 4 or 5 man group there, and we hit it off, became friends, kind of started interacting. And then I was doing a lot of my own research for the Masters, and I shot one of the founders of the site a message. I was like, "Hey man, I'm doing all this work. I've got all these notes. Is it something y'all want to publish?" They're like, "Yeah, sure. Let's try it out." So threw that up. We called it the Masters Bible, and I'm still doing it now. I think the first one was in 2018, I believe. So several years in a row now we've been doing that. It's did this year's edition. It's really well received. A lot of people read it, so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, man, kind of started from there, and started doing a weekly thing called Horse for the Course. Sorry, Courtney. I had a spill over here, man.
Hey, it happens.
Had a spill over here.
Yeah. Just make sure everything was all right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, man. You see me?
We're back. Yep, I can see you. Yep,
Sorry
we're back.
about that, buddy.
No, fine. You're fine.
But yeah, man. Just got started over there, kind of by accident, and just doing my own thing for research purposes. And luckily enough, got the opportunity to start doing some weekly stuff, and just kind of grew from there. As I said, I was kind of just doing part-time thing for a long time. Had some health issues, and that kind of changed my perspective on life a little bit. So I really kind of wanted to spend more time with family, enjoy what I was doing. So got the opportunity that Rotoballer was continually growing, and they asked me to come on full time. And it just kind of coincided with that point in my life. So very thankful that, as I mentioned, I've been doing it full time now for almost 3 years over there.
That's good. And like you said, Rotoballer is a major player when it comes to fantasy sports. I remember they had a magazine that I think they still do. Well, they did fantasy football, and I remember picking it up, Rotoballer, the magazine. So years ago, fantasy football. So they're big name, big brand in this space as well. So, but like you said, with DFS golf has exploded so much over the last quite a few years now. Talk about that growth of DFS and golf. Like you said, you're putting out content for Rotoballer with that. Talk about how you've seen it over the years, over the last few years, of how much DFS golf has expanded.
Yeah, I think it kind of circles back around to what wasn't really a great period for us, but as kind of a whole. But COVID was a really big marker for PGA.
Yes, yep.
Golf was one of the first major sports to kind of get back up and running. Obviously, it's an outdoor sport, so the people at the PGA Tour were pretty aggressive in getting golf back up and running. They play with no fans there, several events. I think that fall of 2020 kind of got going back up after it stopped, and we saw a huge spike in interest there. And I think golf in general did. A lot of people were getting out to play that had maybe not played before because it was something they could do. So that interest definitely translated to PGA DFS. We saw some great young players starting to come on the scene at that time as well, which also helped. So that's when we saw really a big spike in the popularity of PGA DFS was around that kind of that COVID year.
Yeah, for sure. That for me, that's what happened too. It was
Yeah.
during that time when we get into DFS and or sports betting or fantasy whatever fantasy sport it is, and then when you say when COVID hit, it shut down everything. I mean, shut down sports, shut down the world, and the
Yeah.
global pandemic, and yeah, we were us that love sports and do this as either a hobby or as our career or job. We didn't have much to really to talk about, but as you said, when fantasy golf and DFS, golf came back, one of the first sports to come back. It was just that piqued my interest to say, hey, I want to still continue just to do a little bit on the side, a little bit of gambling or whatever, and put a few dollars here and there, and that piqued my interest even more to get back into. So you're right. I think the spike was 2020, 2021, where people just had an itch to get something to either talk about content or just to play fantasy sports or DFS. So yeah, for sure, it was a big interest.
Yeah, yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster, man, when you really sit back and think, like, the
Yeah,
explosion of popularity there around that time, and then
yeah,
that kinda led to the live stuff,
hmm,
the live league starting up, and these guys getting all this money kinda tossed at them, and it's kinda fractured golf a little bit. So the last few years we've been kinda dealing with that, um, which has changed the game a little bit as well. And that's the cool thing about these majors, like the PGA Championship this week. We get to see all these guys come together from the PGA Tour and from Live and compete against each other. So 4 times a year, it's really great to be a golf fan because you get to see these guys compete.
yes, and you get like I said with Live. A lot of people don't get a chance to see those some of the best players over at Live be able to compete with the PGA Tour guys. Now that we have that at least 4 times a year now, as you said, it's very interesting and great for golf fans as well. So let's transition right into the PGA Championship. Like I said, the second major of the year, second leg of this the four legs of golf tournaments, major golf tournaments as well. Quail Hollow. So talk a little bit about the course and that and what do you want to see? What type of golfers thrive on this on that course?
Yeah, man, it's a course that we normally see for years and years. It was the Wells Fargo Championship.
Yep.
Um, Changed to the Truist this year, and it wasn't at Wells Fargo, but it's a golf course we're familiar with. If you're a
Hmm.
golf fan, you've probably watched some tournaments, watched some final rounds on this golf course. Um, because of the Wells Fargo Championship in the past, hosted a President's Cup a couple years ago. So most golf fans are pretty familiar with Quail Hollow. And it's a big boy golf course, man.
Yeah.
7,600 plus yards, par 71. They stretched out a little bit more than we normally see for this week, and there's been a ton of rain in the Charlotte area, so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
gonna see this golf course play even longer than we normally do. So that kind of immediately makes me go to the long hitters. Um, Guys I'm looking at this week. I'm looking for guys that have a really long carry distance. That's going to help them in these softer conditions. We're probably going to see it firm up a little bit. Hadn't checked the weather today, but we're probably going to see it firm up a little bit over the weekend, but especially kind of Thursday, Friday, in those softer conditions. I think those long hitters can make some headway. But yeah, we're gonna see very long approach shots. So we're looking for good long iron players. Um, the the average approach shot from 150 yards and in takes a drastic dip at
Mhm.
Quail Hollow versus kind of a normal PGA Tour stop, the PGA Tour average. And conversely, we see approach shots over 150 yards spike. So we're looking for guys that can hit the ball a long way off the tee, good long iron players on approach. And then, of course, to win a major championship, the putter's going to have to cooperate, which is something that's a little bit more unpredictable.
Yeah.
Um, we're always kind of guessing at that at DFS, but so I'll be focusing on tee to green stuff, guys that are long off the tee, and guys that are really good long iron players.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the 107th PGA Championship. And there's so many good storylines and a great breakdown, by the way, too. And so many good storylines now that uh, some of the big guys like Roy McIlroy has won. He's finally completed the career Grand Slam. Had that drought for the longest time, so he got that off of his shoulders, off his that I know that was eating him up.
Yeah.
And fans of Roy also were just waiting for him to. It seemed like it was only a matter of when, and so he finally got that off of his back. But now he could come in and think, okay, I'm a Grand Slam winner with all four majors now, so not too much pressure on him anymore. I'm sure it's going to be still pressure because he's one of the best golfers in the world. But yeah, we have that. But any other storylines before we get into the DFS side of it? Any other big storylines you're looking at? Scotty Scheffler. He's back winning in his winning ways. Just won a couple weeks ago, and like I said we got Roy, Bryson DeChambeau. We talked about the live guys being able to compete. There's some other any other big storylines you're looking towards in this week.
Yeah, we got a bunch of storylines
Yeah.
coming together, man. You touched on several of them there, kind of the biggest ones. But yeah, Rory McIlroy certainly completed that career Grand Slam at the Masters, which in and of itself is awesome. You got to feel like he's kind of freed up now.
Yeah.
He had been on a very long major drought, and after kind of getting that huge burden off his shoulders, you wonder if he's just going to kind of be freed up and start ticking a couple of these things off. And in addition to that, his course history at Quail Hollow is phenomenal.
Yes.
So you've got a couple of checks in Rory's positive category there. You mentioned Scotty Scheffler. He hadn't won yet. The world's number one player hadn't won yet in 2025, but he did win a couple of weeks ago at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson down in Texas, kind of a hometown event for him. So he's clicking on all cylinders. Kind of the opposite of Rory. No course history for Scotty here.
Yeah.
Not a regular stop for him. So that's a little bit of a question mark. You kind of got to wonder how he's going to play Quail Hollow, although I don't have any concerns because he's a course fit everywhere.
Yep.
You mentioned Bryson DeChambeau played great at the Masters. We saw him, win a major last year, win the U.S. Open at Wingfoot. He's playing terrific golf right now. This course sets up perfectly for him. And we got Jordan Spieth, man, kind of a forgotten dude, but
yeah, all right.
He's in that career Grand Slam this week. So this could kind of be equal him to Rory as far as winning all four majors. He's shown a little bit of life here lately, and he is chasing that Grand Slam. Justin Thomas is playing great. He won a PGA Championship held at this golf course several years ago. So, yeah, Courtney, we got a lot of things that are kind of converging here this week that are really exciting.
This is and then the Masters, they have their own narratives and storylines. I mean, it's the Masters, so but I've heard from a lot of different people that the PGA Championship is like their favorite tournament. How about for yourself? Is this your favorite one out of the majors, or?
I've grown to. It's not my favorite. The Masters is probably my favorite, but I've really grown to appreciate the PGA Championship. It used to be the last one of the year. They changed that. It's the second one now. They go to some really cool golf courses. People can make arguments about Quail Hollow this week, and that's fine. But they go to some really cool golf courses kind of on an annual basis. And as far as like the strength of field, it's probably the best of the four majors. Because in the U.S. Open and in the British Open, you've got a lot of qualifying guys, that are obviously great golfers, but maybe not like stalwarts on a tour anywhere. And in the Masters, you've got such a kind of a small field, usually 85, 90 guys, and a lot of those guys are past champions. So I think as far as competition wise, this is probably the best major field that we're going to see this year. So yeah man, I'm pumped for this one.
Me too. I'm very pumped. I'm pumped for all the majors and the PGA Championship. And you said it's been quite a different courses throughout, but As you said, Quail Hollow, they Quail Hollow, they always talk about, well, they play it so many times, and due to the Wells Fargo, but it just shows that some of the guys like Roy has mastered this course, and he's won at a high, very high, a lot of times, a lot very high clip. Um, maybe he is the favorite. So let's get into some. You talked about a lot of the guys, the top guys. From a DFS, from DraftKings perspective, we'll move into that. Before we get into that, you talked about some of the guys you are looking, some of the golfers you're looking for, like their skill sets and things like that. What about roster construction? Are you looking at course history, recent form? And what are you looking at? Is it going to be a stars and scrubs type of thing? I heard that, but a lot of these scrubs, I put them in quotation marks because they're not.
Yeah.
But those lower, there's a 5K range and there's a 5K range this week. But some of those 6Ks, 5K guys are legitimate names here, so I wouldn't call them scrubs. They're usually 7 or 8K, but they're just moved down because, like I said, it's a loaded field, 156 golfers. What would you say would be the best roster construction?
Yeah, as you mentioned, man, it's kind of an insult to these guys to call them scrubs, but
right.
That's kind of the lingo that we're used to. So we'll roll with it. But I'm certainly interested in some of these guys at the bottom of the board this week, maybe more so than on a normal week. And that's because A, they're really quality players, and B, I feel like you really want exposure to the top of the board this week, like the Rorys, the Brysons, the Scotties. I want those guys. So I'll be dipping down into the lower price ranges to find some players in order to roster those guys.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of names in the 5K, and then I'm gonna before this be I want to break down some of these ones you guys you're looking at as you build out some of your rosters. As well. So you're right. So the top of the board is Scotty Scheffler at 13-4, Roy at 12-2, and Bryson. Those are the top three at 11-5. Those are the big names from 11K and up. Do you feel? I think it was one of the topics I asked you. Do you think with Roy and the way he's played and his history, and do you feel like he should have been the number one golfer? Maybe he should have been. I know there's maybe an argument for that, but Scotty's been number one for the last couple of years. But Roy's having a better year this year and has won the first major. So is there a legit argument that Roy should have maybe been higher than Scotty, or should the gap have been a little bit closer?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument, especially for the gap to be closer.
Okay.
And not only those factors you mentioned, Courtney, but also, we touched on earlier the course history aspect of this, that Rory has been so good here. And Scotty doesn't have, any track record to speak of outside the President's Cup. Never played in a pro event at Quail Hollow, so we don't have course history for Scotty and the history for Rory's elite. So I think you can certainly make the argument that if I was surprised by the gap. I think it's was a $1,200 price gap this week.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong, and I think we'll see. I think we'll see ownership reflect that. I think we'll see Rory, come in with quite a bit more ownership than Scotty because of the savings you can get, and the other factors you mentioned, the recent form and the course history.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. I think Scotty, he won't be low owned, but but you're right. I think Roy and Bryson, I was listening to some other shows, and they were saying that some of the most popular builds are going to be Roy and Bryson because of the savings, and then you can dip into that 6 to 5K range. But Scotty, if he's the odd man out of the three, I'd still love to use him in lineups as well. So I think I'm gonna use, when I'm building my lines, all three of these guys are gonna be at the top. Maybe talk about Bryson, maybe the one live guy who's playing very well, one of the consistent golf. And he's looking for that. He wants that PGA Championship too. So I think he might be you say he's gonna definitely be popular as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of folks are going to hop on Bryson. They've seen how he's performed in recent majors. They're going to look back to when he was on the PGA Tour. He had some really good showings at Quail Hollow, and this golf course is a terrific fit for him. We all know how long he is off the tee, but he's actually been super accurate this year. I think he's like 7th on live in driving accuracy, which is kind of ridiculous when you consider how far he gets. So, he's a great play. He'll be popular, but there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah.
This course suits him well. He's in excellent form, and you can get him at a little bit of a discount when you're talking to versus Scotty and Rory. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of great plays up here. I mean, you don't have to restrict yourself to just the top 3. We can talk about Xander Schauffele, a guy we've not even mentioned yet, the defending PGA champion,
Yeah.
won 2 majors last year.
Yes.
Been struggling with injury this year, but it feels like he's worked his way back. I would consider him a very serious contender. I don't know if you'd want to call him a dark horse, but I'm definitely circling Xander's name and then Justin Thomas, who won a PGA championship here at Quail Hollow. Won a couple weeks ago. It's kind of fought his way back. Had a win at Harbor Town the week after the Masters, and almost another win last week at the Truist Championship. So there are a lot of really good options, and that's not even bringing up like kind of these forgotten guys like a John Rahm, a Brooks Koepka, guys we've seen perform really well in major championships. So
yeah,
it's one of the most interesting salary scales I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that the 9K and above. You mentioned all those guys like a Justin Thomas and Brooks Koepka, who's a 3-time PGA champion himself, I think 3-time and major winner, and Patrick Cantlay, he's a guy that's starting to play well. Hideki, who's a major winner. Looks like he's been forgotten a little bit too, and Shane Lowry's coming into this in pretty good form as well. So a lot of guys in that 9K and above range. Let's slide down to the 8K. Any guys, 1 or 2 guys that you're going to be rostering or that you have your eyes on?
Yeah, my eyes immediately go kind of to the bottom of the 8K range, and that's Sepp Straka there at 8K. We saw him win last week, his 2nd win this year.
Yeah.
And we don't think of him. He doesn't have that kind of that name recognition, that maybe like a casual golf fan is going to know Sepp Straka. But if you follow PGA Tour closely, you play a lot of PGA DFS, you know this guy, man. He's been absolutely balling out this year.
Yeah.
And you can stretch that back for the last 2-3 years, where he started kind of clicking off these PGA Tour wins, and a lot of them at kind of smaller events. But he beat a really stout field last week, and his ball striking's been phenomenal. We've seen some course history from him at Quail Hollow, so I love Sepp Straka there at 8K. Kind of always got a soft spot for just these ball strikers, man, especially in major championships, like a Russell Henley, Corey Connors. Those are guys that stick out to me in the 8K range. And you also got a guy, if you do want to take the course history angle, a guy like Jason Day, who's played really well at Quail Hollow. So there's some very strong options in this 8K range as well.
Yeah, and these are guys that repeatedly in other tournaments are 9K. Sometimes you get a guy like Russell Henley who's just under, he's at 8,900, but could easily have been a 9K guy, or someone like a Cam Smith, usually in the 9Ks. I mean, we've seen Corey Connor, sometimes he's higher than that, but you can get a very good discount on some of these guys in the lower 8K range. You said Patrick Reed, he's another one that just does well in majors. If you could fit him in, he's a guy that I'm looking at too. You want to fit him in with someone like a Bryson or Roy or Scotty. I mean, it's going to be hard when you have Scotty, but then you're going to have to get down into that, which we will get down to some of the other guys. So we got a couple of comments here in the chat. He says, Nathan Ramachandra from Nathan Sports Rush says hello. I said, this is awesome show right now. He said, I'll ask the question, who's a couple of your sleeper picks in the PGA for this tournament for this week?
Yeah, I think we touched on a couple. I mean, if you want to call these guys up here at the top of the board sleepers, relatively speaking, I think you can call them that, like against a guy like a Bryson or a Rory or a Scotty. But Xander Schauffele is really interesting to me if we're talking about guys up the top. I think a lot of that ownership is going to go to the top of the board. JT is going to grab a lot of ownership.
Yeah.
I think Colin Morikawa just deserves to like at least have a mention because the dude is so consistent off the tee. He's going to be in the fairway all week. He's a tremendous iron player. He's kind of been all around victories, just hadn't closed the deal. But we know he's like a gamer, a 2-time major champion. So I feel like you can mention Colin Morikawa, and then another guy I touched on in Sepp Straka, who I think really has a legitimate chance to win this week. I mean, he's a great DFS play, but I think he could, legitimately be in the mix come the weekend. So that's a sleeper that I like is Straka.
Okay, yeah, I like that call too. All right, well, let's get into the we'll get into the 7, then we'll get into the bottom of of this tournament here. We got the 6 and 5K. Yes, there's a 5K, which you're gonna probably have to dip into if you're gonna get that, if you're gonna build around Scotty. But any couple guys that you're looking into in the 7K range, which is a lot of names here in the 7K range, from Keegan Bradley to just to name a few guys, Brian Harmon. There's a lot of guys. Daniel Berger, who I really like this week. But any guys that you have in the 7K range?
Yeah, there's so many options, man, throughout the salary scale this week. It's kind of what I always say, week of majors. It's like, in a way, it's really, really different than kind of week in, week out roster construction. I feel like on, a lot of weeks, especially when we start getting like into the back end of summer, a lot of weeks you're like searching for guys that you just want to play. And on weeks like this, in these majors, like, you want to play everybody. you don't want to leave anybody out. But of course you can't do that. You have to make some tough decisions. So if I were kind of given a little piece of advice for roster construction, just be willing to make those tough decisions. You can't play everybody. But there are some guys here in this 7K range. You mentioned Daniel Berger, a guy that I've been just kind of locking in every week.
Yes.
That he tees it up. He's just been super consistent. I don't love the course fit. I prefer Berger on shorter golf courses.
Right.
But I think with the form and his mental toughness, we saw this dude battle back from a big time injury to keep his tour card. Has come up really big in some spots where he had to. And now he's kind of working his way back up. So I really like Berger this week, even though it doesn't jump out as a great course fit. You mentioned Keegan Bradley, another just, kind of classic ball striker, pros pro, veteran, been around the block, knows how to handle this golf course. Some young guys, Akshay Bhatia. We start talking about guys that have some length and have a lot of talent. That maybe are coming out of nowhere a little bit this week. I think you can look at him. So there's certainly some play. We've got guys down here, Courtney, that we know are talented. A Robert McIntyre, a Tony Finau, down here, kind of the lower half of the 7K range. Max Homa hasn't played well this year, but his Quail Hollow course history is very good. A former winner on this golf course. We saw him play well at the Masters, so maybe Max puts a couple things together this week. So there are a lot of guys to lock in the 7Ks.
All right, yes, really good. Like I said, a lot of good guys, especially at the bottom of the range, as you said. All right, let's get into now we get down to finding, these are like the bottom sleepers here, where you really got to hit on, if you're going to hit on some of the, with those Scotty and Roy lineups and Bryson, you're going to have to dip into these 6 and 5K. So give me a couple guys in both of these 6 and the 5K, which is a lot of names who we just said at the top of the show are usually in the 7Ks, or some of them are in the 8Ks, but you have them down here, kind of like I see Aaron Rye, somebody like him, who's usually consistently in the 7 or 8K range,
Yeah.
and Steven Yeager's, guys like that. But yeah, they name a few guys for those that want to finish the building their lineups, especially if they go at the top.
Yeah, I think you hit on Aaron Rye. He's a guy I loved last week, and I believe he's 7,700 last week,
Hmm.
in a signature event field. So,
Right.
a no joke field, and we're getting him at a $900 price discount versus last week.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's a super sharp ball striker, fairways and greens type of guy, which is something you're looking for in major championships. And there are a lot of guys right here, kind of to kick off the 6K range that I'll definitely have exposure to and will feel comfortable with. I mean, you don't feel like you're making a reach with an Aaron Rye. Harris English is another guy, just a kind of a proven vet. We saw him win earlier this year.
Yep.
He's capable of playing well in major championships. We've seen it before. Denny McCarthy, one of the best putters in the world, can get hot and play well. Andrew Novak is a guy that's been on fire this year. I don't know if you caught last week's Draftcast show, but Joel loves Andrew Novak. He plays him like every week. So it's kind of a heat check week with Novak, but he's played tremendously well, and he's kind of continually answered the bell this year. Every time we've seen him, and as you get down closer to the 5Ks, I mean, really like Jake Knapp, you talk about guys that you want distance off the tee, guys that can carry the ball a long way this week in kind of softer conditions. We've seen Knapp come really close to some wins earlier in the year, in the Florida swing especially. And then my man, I'm kind of riding him till he breaks me. That's Keith Mitchell at 6,200. First round leader. Just go ahead and throw you $20 down on Keith Mitchell, first round leader.
Yes.
It's close. Just not been able to put 4 rounds together. We saw him kind of fade away on Sunday last week after being the first round leader at the Truist. But there's some good Quail Hollow course history with Mitchell. So I love him. I mean, he's probably going to be a borderline core value play for me this week there at 6,200. And then another guy I want to mention in the 6Ks is Davis Riley, just a player that I think is really talented. Can play hard golf courses well. We've seen him play well in a couple of majors. So I think talent-wise, there's a lot of upside there, maybe a little volatility. But when you start getting down close to the 5K range, you got to be willing to take on some volatility and roster these guys. And, especially if you're playing a tournament like the Millie Maker, you got to be willing to take some chances and gamble a little bit. Cookie cutter lineups aren't going to get it done. So Davis Riley's the kind of guy that I would love to roster in like a Millie Maker type, GPP.
Yep, you got to take the risk when you're down here at the bottom. Those 5K guys, like you said, a lot of these guys, if there's not a 5K in the in DFS and the DraftKings, they're normally 6 and 7K. So if you like some of the names, you said like a Tom Hoagie or Michael Kim, Gary Woodland in these 5K, Dunlap. I mean, there's so many, Eric Cole, so many names that, like I said, you normally would see them in 6K. Don't be afraid to play them just because they're 5K, but because you're gonna have to squeeze and take a risk on some of these other guys. Somebody like EVR, for instance, too, at 5,700. Those are the guys that you got to take a risk on to fill up your lineups.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned several names down there that I like. Tom Hoagie especially. I'll throw a couple more out. Sam Stevens. Is a guy that's long off the tee, hits the driver really well, can get hot, go low even on a tough golf course, and sometimes like one good round in a major can really propel you to be in contention. So I try to take that into account. Another guy down there at 5,700, he's a North Carolina guy, and he's played some good golf earlier in the year. That's Ben Griffin. He's kind of native to this area, so he knows the local scene. Obviously, knows Quail Hollow very well. So I would circle Ben Griffin as well down in the 5Ks.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good, really good advice and just good, like you said, just for roster constructions and things like that. Because you said there's a lot of names and a lot of ways you can attack to build your lineups. Even if you're building just a couple lineups, you definitely want to hit that top of the leader, that top of the board. But you say got to take some risk at the bottom to fill it up. And hey, if you get those guys that can hit, you're in a good spot to win
Sure.
some money for sure as well. So, well, Joe, this has been a pleasure, and I really appreciate this time. And thank you again for doing this. Really appreciate it. I know it's a busy week for you, and I just, like I said, I've been with the majors. I wanted just to bring a few people on and just to kind of talk it out and help other people that are very interested in playing DFS or want to get into DFS. So I appreciate you taking the time to break it down, and but let everyone know what else you got coming up. I'm sure you got a few more things coming up before Thursday, and where they can follow you on social media as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Courtney. Great talking to you, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and had fun talking through the PGA. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Nicely. It's my name, pretty simple. You can find my content over at rotoballer.com. And you mentioned folks that are getting into PGA DFS. Maybe they want to try it out for a major. We got a lot of amazing free content over there at Rotoballer that folks can check out and get lots of great info for free. And for those that might want to dig a little bit deeper, we have premium content available. Spencer Aguiar leads that up. I do some premium content. Joe Idoni got a really great team. And we're running a deal this week. You can get 30% off of any premium package with promo code PGA when you check out. So you can save 30% that way. It's a really great deal. So I'd encourage everybody to head over to rotoballer.com this week and get your PGA DFS and your betting content from over there. Great staff. But I'm looking forward to it, man. Wish you the best. Hope you have some great lineups, and maybe we'll put something together.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, that would be great. We'll do something together, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Best of luck with you too. And I love these weeks. Every week, I love it. But the majors, just he said, it brings out the casuals,
get the juices flowing a little
get the
bit.
juices flowing. The casuals even come out, and you
Yeah.
see them. They like you said, maybe their first time, and they know the Masters, and they know the PGA, they know US Open, they know the majors. So hey, it works out for everyone. So if you want to put a couple lineups in and just for the majors, so yeah, they can definitely check out Rotoballer and Joe and like I said, all the staff over there, credible guys over there, people over there that works at Rotoballer and put out really good content. So I really appreciate it, Joe. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll do this again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, happy to do it anytime. Thank you a lot, Courtney. Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.